In this Winning with SketchUp video, we're going to explore some of the challenges that we face when creating terrains. Terrains in SketchUp can be notoriously tricky, and I want to show some techniques and some plugins that can help solve terrain creation in certain situations. So what I have here to start is an example of something we face quite a bit and in residential design specifically, and that is where we have some known elevations and we need to, maybe we're creating a driveway or we're creating a pathway that's going to follow the terrain somewhat, but it needs to match up with known elevations. And there's a lot of constant points of contact when creating objects like this. So we may have a known elevation at the entrance of the home, and we may have a front porch area. We may have a known elevation or height for the garage and where the garage floor is. And if this was a driveway, we would need to match the driveway with the known elevation at the front door and the known elevation at the garage. We also encounter known elevations with roads and sidewalks. So sometimes in creating a path or a driveway situation, we'll need to match that up with a known elevation of a road, and that's not always flat. So this can be a very challenging terrain situation where we need to take this path and somehow conform it to the terrain and allow it to fall while still matching up with these constants here. So there's a couple different ways we can do this, and the first way is I'm going to take the shape itself and create that first. So we can go in and we have our shape here, and I'm going to select this, and I want to bring back the visibility of everything else. And what I'm going to do is push-pull this, but I first want to have this set at the lowest elevation. So this is sitting at our lowest known point here, and I want to push-pull this up, and we're going to bring this up slightly above our highest elevation there. And I'm going to go through and soften this, and I just want to soften all of those edges there. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go around and actually draw the point of contact here. So we're going to draw an edge across, and that edge is going to represent where this face is intersecting with this surface. So we want that edge there, and if we look, we can see that edge is splitting that face. So we're going to come around and do the same thing over here, and we're going to get the angle of the road here, or this opposing surface, and we want to come around and do the same thing here, even though it's at the bottom. And actually draw this across to make sure we have it on this side as well. And now I'm going to come up here to this surface and draw a line at that height. And again, we're thinking about these points of contact. And if I turn off everything else, we can see we have our points of contact going around. Now we want to connect those points of contact. And what we can do is go with the Tools on Surface plugin, and we're going to use the Line on Surface, and we're just going to bring this around, and what we're going to do is just connect these points of contact here. We're going to come around, connect these, and we can hit escape in between each connection, and we see when we connect here it places like this down at the bottom. Can get a little weird, so all we have to do is back it up a little bit and add an extra click in there. So now we'll bring that across and hit our endpoint. You see we have our endpoint there that we drew, and we hit escape, keeps the tool still active, and we want to come around and do the same thing, and we'll do a click back here and then bring this along until we hit our endpoint. So this line is representing all the way around our surface. So if we go and I'm going to grab this face here and I'm going to grow that selection, and I'm using the Quad Face Tools plugin to do that. Now I can group those and delete that. And I want to take a look at this, and we have a bit of an issue. Now if we're going to create a surface along this top set of edges here, and this was representing a driveway, we really wouldn't want our driveway to have that kind of a fall to it. I think our vehicles would slide off sideways. So let's back things up here a little bit. And I want to get rid of this edge here. And we're going to draw that a little bit higher. So what we need to do is we have our point of contact here that we have to hit. And if we can come across here and stay relatively straight, and thinking that when we're across from this side here, we want to have a level area, somewhat level. So you can even bring that up just a little bit, and then bring this down and around. And see if we can hook into this edge over here. Now we can delete that piece, and this is a little pointy in here, so we can even take another line here and go Tools on Surface with the line tool, and we can just draw across there. And now if we delete those, we can see we've kind of smoothed that out. It's a little bit more level. We could also solve that with the arc on surface here. If we wanted that to be a little more radiused, we could do that. And that looks pretty good. And what I'm going to do now is I want to draw a line out across here, and I want to somehow mark on the other side this edge that we have on this side. So that can be a little bit tricky. I'm going to actually use the Workplane plugin, and I'm going to activate that. And what we want to do is kind of find our high point here, and turn on hidden geometry, and I'm going to click here, and I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to click up in this direction here. Now it dropped our work plane there, and if I hit tab, now it'll bring our work plane perpendicular to that face that we selected. And if we look on this side, now we can see where level is with the top of our driveway on this side. So we'll accept the work plane there by double clicking, and we want to delete this edge here, and we're going to redraw this, and just be mindful as we're coming around here. We want to stay just a little bit above this, and maybe click at that point, and then we can start our climb here and climb to the end. And let's right click on our work plane, go to delete all, and that's a plugin from TIG if you don't have that plugin. So now I'm going to select the surface, grow selection, and now if we look at that, it looks a little bit better there. So what we want to do now is skin the top of this, and to do that we're going to use the soap skin and bubble plugin. And I'm going to go select all of these edges here, all the way around. I could also delete this surface, and we could get in here and delete just these faces. And now we want to kind of drag select all these bottom surfaces here, and I'm going to erase stray curves and erase the rest, and I can erase that one little edge there. Now we really have our shape for our driveway, and we could go ahead and select that whole thing, and we can run soap skin and bubble, turn our divisions up, There's 25, let's try 35, say OK. That'll go through and process fairly quickly. That will stitch all the way around to all of our edges that we created. And remember, these edges are sitting right at our contact points. So we can see that this skin is now being formed and hitting all the marks that it needs to. And the nice thing about soap, skin, and bubble is it's going to go through and soften everything. And now we have a really nice smooth transition here, which resembles what a driveway would look like in a lot of ways. So we can take that and we can also soften that, reverse those faces if we need to. And that looks good. Throw an asphalt material on there. I'm using through paint to do this. Now what we can do is go and fill in the rest, and we're going to do another series of terrain patches to fill these other areas in. So we can go and I usually want to start these with some type of a selection item. So what I'll do is I'll draw out a square or a rectangle. I'm going to make that a group and then get inside of that group. And now we're inside of a group where this terrain patch is going to sit. To support the terrain patch for soap, skin, and bubble to work, we need to grab these edges. And it's a little tricky to go in and trace all of these edges all the way around. So the easiest way to do this is to get into the group, whatever that surface is here, and I'm going to use Path Select. Again, this is part of the Artisan plugin. This is the Path Select tool that comes with that, and that's a free plugin. And even if you don't use Artisan, it's worth it just for the Path Select tool. So I'm going to copy those edges. Now I want to get over here into my group, hide everything else, and I paste those edges, and we can see that that is fitting exactly where it needs to. Now I'll get into this surface that we created just now, and I'll do the same thing. I'm going to grab all these edges all the way around, and I'm going to copy those, Control C, close our group, and we're going to get in here and paste those in place. Now I can erase stray curves and see if there's anything left, and I can also check with Edge Tools from TomTom and see if there's any open ends, and there's not. So that means soap, skin, and bubble will work. And I can probably leave this at the default of 10 divisions and let that go ahead and run through. And again, this little square here is just to help select that empty group, because if we have edges and that's the only thing in that group, and those edges are overlapping another set of edges, well then it's very hard to select those edges. So this is just a selection icon, if you will, and gives me something visible to know how to get in and out of the group. So now we can reverse those faces, soften that, and now we have our patch for there. And we can do the same thing over here, get it in and grab these edges along here, copy them, get into our group here, and get down and select this set of edges here. And if you select too many, that's okay. You just need them to be all the way around and connect. And there's one more here. Connect those, and now we should be able to delete any stray curves. Just running this erase stray curves from Edge Tools. We can check for edge gaps. There aren't any. Now we can just do the same thing and skin that. And soften that as well. So there we have two of our surfaces, and we would just go around and we want to create the rest of these as well. So just grab these edges here, and I think I'm missing a piece at the bottom there, but that's okay. And grab these here, get in and paste those. And I just want to make sure I connect those ends. Erase stray curves, select those, and run soap skin. And we can grab that and soften it. And we just have one more up here. We could trace those if we wanted. And check for edge gaps. I don't see any, so we have our other patch there, and we can go ahead and run soap skin, hit enter. Oops, and enter. And reverse those faces and soften that. And there we go. We've created this area here, but we've done it in a way that we've had a lot of control over the initial hard surface here, which was the driveway, and that's where it really counted. We needed to make sure that that was sitting where we wanted it. So by creating that spline cage, or by creating those edges, that we were able to use tools on surface and draw those lines and actually place them where we wanted and mark across from each other, we're able to solve that in a fairly predictable way, and that's what's important here. So we can use those edges, and even if we had known spot elevations, we can mark those and then connect those with tools on surface and skin everything together with soap skin and bubble. So another way to go about doing this, and I'm going to take all of these areas here and going to bring them up. I just want to grab this piece here. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to hide all of this. And I just want to paste that piece in. And now I'm going to get in here, and I want to flatten this out. So there's a couple ways we can flatten things. We could use the Architect's tools here from TomTom. If I select everything, there's a flatten option here, which will go ahead and flatten that down, but it also drop everything down. If you have the Artisan plugin, there is a make planar option here, and we could go XY, and that would flatten it where it is. And the other option would be Vertex Tools. If we have that, there's a make planar option here, but that doesn't do as well. It makes it everything planar, but it doesn't it maintains the angle here. So we flattened everything out, but we need it to be flat on one plane. So I'll usually use Artisan and just do XY. And now that I've flattened that, I like this little plugin called Fix-It 101, and you can search for that and get that, but I'll run that, and that'll delete everything on the inside and now just leave me with this flattened surface that has a single face in it. And now what I want to do is go in, and I'm going to create a terrain here out of all of these edges here. So I'm going to create my little selection icon here, make that into a group, and now I want to select all of these edges here and grab that up to there, copy those and paste those in the group. And now I'm just going to grab these edges here on the outside, with double click with path select, copy those and get inside of the group here and paste those. And let's check for edge gaps. There aren't any. There's no stray curves, so we should be able to just grab this, run soap skin and bubble, and let's turn this up to maybe 140 here. Let that run through. And that'll go through and hit all of our points, and this will kind of average everything out as that goes around and makes all the connections and stitches everything. This is going to be a very averaged out surface, and the downside with doing it this way is, again, we were able to control the pitch and the slope of the driveway the way that we did it the first time. So this time we're going to have to do a little bit extra work to get that to happen. So let me just pause this and let this finish. Okay, so that went through and completed, and we can see that it's hitting all of the marks there that we want. And it looks good overall. We could get in here and we could now bubble this in the negative direction if we wanted, to try to smooth maybe some of these center areas out. However, it will tend to pull away from some other areas up towards the road, and we don't want that. We don't want to ramp up at the road. So let's set that back to 0 with the bubble. Click on there, so 0 for the pressure. And that'll go ahead back to the point that it was at. Okay, so now we can take this here and soften this. It's facing the right direction with all the edges. And what we can do now is just cut, intersect this shape with this soap skin that we've created. So do that pretty easily and just pull this down. Make sure it's intersecting everywhere. And let's cut the shape here, make sure we're inside the group to the point we can select the surface, and then we want to paste in place. And now we're going to intersect with context, and now we have our surface. And all in all, it doesn't look too bad. Again, we have a huge slope here going across, and can't really tell here, but if you tried to put a car or something on this, it would definitely look like it was facing downward. So what we would need to do, and I think the best option here would be maybe bring down this edge here a little bit. So how I would generally do that is I would use the Vertex Tools, and I would want to select some of this edge here. Make sure I just have the edge kind of right in the middle, and then I'm going to launch Vertex Tools. Now I have my soft selection turned up pretty high. I'm going to turn that down. There's 60. I'm going to keep going up until, let's see, 120, 140. Okay, I don't want to come up this high here, so I can delete some of these here. Let me just select. I don't want my soft selection to move the connection up here by the road. So there we go. I want those all to be blue up there. And now we can get in and actually move this down a considerable amount. It's going to look weird at first. And can actually get in here. And I'm going to use the move tool and just kind of lock this here on the blue. And move this across and maybe just snap to something on this side. So we have that huge indentation there. And I'm just going to bring this up just a little bit. Maybe 5 or 6 inches there. So that looks okay, but we have this ramp or this hill here in the middle of our driveway. And what I'm going to do is get in and select the driveway and group it. Now it should be isolated. And I'm going to smooth out this entire center. I'm going to use Artisan plugin to do that. But first, if I go and try to smooth things now, it's going to smooth, but I'm going to get the edges are going to pull away from where they were making those points of contact. You can see here that this edge is pulling away. So what I need to do is crease all of those edges first. So I'm going to select the edges. I'm going to go to Tools, and we're going to go to Artisan. We're going to go to Crease Selection. And with just the boundary edges selected, I'm going to choose Edges and Vertices. And that will crease all of the edges in our selection here. And now I can get in, grab everything, and use this button here, Smooth Selection. And we'll see that that will start to smooth things out. But it won't change any of those border edges at all. So I could get in here with the Sculpt tool as well, set that to smooth, increase the strength, and try to smooth out some of these areas in here. But I think just a couple clicks of the Smooth Selection has smoothed this out to the point where it's good enough. And I could try to flatten that if I wanted. Just keep that with the smoothing there. So that looks good. Let's just make sure we soften everything one more time here. And I'm happy with that. And now we could do the same thing here if we wanted. Get in and group that. And just want this surface here. So let me see. We got an extra set of edges here. Just delete all this. There's a little gap here. Okay, so now I just want this to be in a group by itself. So I'm going to explode everything again. Now just group that, and I should just have that. We can do the same thing. Select the edges, go to Tools, go to Artisan, go to Crease Selection, and select the edges and vertices in the selection. Grab everything and soften that. And that looks good. Soften that. And overall, that's not a bad method either if you have those plugins and you want to go about doing it that way. This rise here is a little bit harsh, but I'm going to call that good. Same with over here. We didn't quite have the same control. Probably shouldn't have pulled the soft selection out so far. That might have solved that. But overall, we can kind of get the idea of how that works with making the overall surface first, then intersecting, and then coming back and tweaking some heights where we needed to tweak them. And it might have saved a little bit of time. We didn't have to make these other areas here, and everything is still matching up the way we want it. So I hope that was helpful, and we will see you in the next video.